We're joined by none other than Kathleen Kennedy herself. Kathleen, that was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Star Wars is saved, and when I say saved, I mean in the same way that Alec Baldwin is a safe person to be around on a set. It all started when we found out Daisy Ridley is coming back to make a new Star Wars movie as Rey. Personally, I think Rey is just a mantle we can pass on to any other character. I think it's time for a refresh just to diversify that mantle into a different role. But Disney likes losing money, so they've got somebody else in mind.
It was so exciting to have Daisy back today.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was huge.
That's huge.
Yeah.
In fact, they're hinging all of their success on Obaid Chinoy. I have no idea if that's pronounced correctly. But apparently, she's the first woman that wasn't Jennifer Lawrence, and the first person who doesn't need to tan to direct a Star Wars movie. Now, she is somebody that KSI would have to apologise for if he met her, but her claim to fame is most recently directing 2 episodes of Miss Marvel for Disney+. And if that's not a sign of success, I don't know what is. I can only assume that she got hired without them having watched Miss Marvel. Because nobody watched Miss Marvel. No, I would say that Disney gave her the role based on her Wikipedia entry, which says she's a Canadian journalist, filmmaker, and activist, known for her work in films highlighting inequality for women. I'm so unequal that I've got to direct a new Star Wars movie. Personally, I don't know how she gets up in the morning when she's just being crushed by that many layers of oppression. Now, in an interview with Variety, Jon Favreau said, "It's just exciting. I always find it really satisfying and encouraging when you have people who come through Star Wars and then come back to Star Wars." And to that, I can kind of agree. If you've got a really long, successful TV series, bringing back old characters as sort of nostalgia is always nice. Star Wars, though, is a little bit different. You left the Rey movies because they were damaging your franchise. Then you tried a load of other things, which destroyed the franchise, and now you're back where you first started because you have absolutely no ideas. So when people are coming back into Star Wars because you're scraping the bottom of the budget, I'm not really sure that's really satisfying or encouraging for the Star Wars brand. Now, Favreau thinks it shows how strong of a community you have, how big a bond you develop. Because the bond they developed with the sequel trilogy was so strong, they have done absolutely nothing with any of the characters since. And when they start talking about the past of Star Wars, it gets any worse. When they say getting to this point has been bumpier than successfully navigating an asteroid field. Because Knight stepped in to write the film after the original screenwriters left in February, which was just the latest example of high-profile creatives departing a Star Wars feature project, months or even years after their involvement was first reported. Which is the absolute death knell of a franchise. This is Star Wars. Everybody should want to work on Star Wars. If you've got people who are gagging to be part of such a high-profile IP, and then they think, oh, this is actually awful, I need to leave. Or worse, they provide you something awful, which is so bad even Disney won't take it. Then people not even willing to stick it through to the end of a Star Wars production really isn't high praise for your company. On top of that, we got new information about The Acolyte, where its first pitch actually detailed it as Frozen meets Kill Bill, which really fits in with what the fans want Disney to do with Star Wars, and that can you please just let it go. In fact, this idea of Frozen meets Kill Bill was so absolutely horrendous that even the person that pitched it to Kathleen Kennedy says she was shocked that she didn't get kicked out of the building, whereas I think she may have just not got kicked out of the building because Frozen is an IP that Kathleen Kennedy might actually know something about. As opposed to Star Wars. The High Republic never bothered me anyway. And much like Amazon had their Hell Week, Star Wars decided, yeah, let's just double down on ours as well, and release the Ahsoka trailer.
Something's coming. Something dark. I sense it.
The Ahsoka trailer is weird in that you get the feeling they're trying to make it impactful, like some massive event is going on. This needs massive enthusiasm. It's dark. It's going to build up to something incredible. And yet everyone delivers their line in the same monotone, emotionless, I'm just here for a paycheck tone of voice.
I started hearing whispers about Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
But hey, maybe it's just Ahsoka. Maybe the other actresses deliver their lines better.
We have to prepare for the worst.
It's been a while.
Things have changed.
Oh no, they're breeding. Is there anyone with dangly bits could do it better?
This is a new beginning. For some, war. For others, power.
I guess that's a no to that as well. It is interesting in the trailer how the only man is the villain. But this is Disney. At least when you get a Disney show, you know exactly what to expect, and they never fail to deliver. Of course, when you've set the quality expectation this low, it is quite difficult to not deliver it. But they do seem to be trying to tie different elements from things together. Finally. And I mean, story-wise, I don't think Boba Fett turning into a Mandalorian series really counts, but in this trailer it raises the point of maybe we should start bringing the Jedi back. which also ties into Daisy Ridley's film.
The Jedi fell a long time ago. There aren't many left.
And the series does have the added bonus when it comes to talent of at least having David Tennant on the crew.
Perhaps it is time to begin again.
And these kind of sentiments and plot points are mirrored in the Ridley universe, according to Kathleen Kennedy herself.
What's the state of the galaxy? And she's attempting to rebuild the Jedi Order.
But this tying things together seems to be something they simultaneously want to do and are also scared of. It's like they realise they're in a bad position, which is surprisingly self-aware for Disney Star Wars, let's be honest. Because while they describe the Rey film as something where she rebuilds the Jedi Order, she also seems to want to leave behind the past of Star Wars and go forth into a new Disney Star Wars era. Because when she was asked about Luke, you mentioned Luke, and I think he was almost a cautionary tale in the sequel trilogy. Will we see any play of that with Rey at all? And we got this response from Kathleen Kennedy.
I don't know as we'll spend a lot of time in flashbacks or Force Ghosts. The spirit of what he represents to her is going to be significant.
So despite wanting a cohesive universe, they also want something that can break away if something fails. Disney is hemorrhaging cash as it is, and so if you've got something which just isn't working the way you need it to, it's got to be cut away at this point. You can't just keep ploughing money in to something that's not profitable. Which might be why now we've got it from multiple sources that this film will be a standalone movie, but depending on how well it does at the box office, it could lead to other projects. And Kathleen Kennedy said something similar.
We started as a standalone idea, and then it's grown. But I don't want to make a commitment to that until we really get into it and see how it plays.
Yeah, we could expand, but I just don't want to commit to it now, because everything might go belly up. We know what your response was to Rey previously, and it's going to be a lot worse by now. Despite that, though, the plan that they've got for it is surprising. This is like go big or go home. The last hurrah to see if we can finally sell the audience something that they don't want. As Bounding into Comics reports on a rumour from a scooper WDW Pro in February who claimed that Rey would be returning. He said, "I'm told Disney's going to bring back Rey, and they're doing it to test it out. They're going to put out a big merchandising push with a theatrical release to go along with it, and find out if Rey can invigorate Star Wars with a number of other characters around her." And it's the other characters around her which is the interesting bit. We actually don't have faith that Rey can carry this on her own, but maybe if we stick a few fan favourites alongside, she might. Especially when it comes to the merch, we all know how much Disney love their merch. There really can only be one character that they're thinking of, because they report Chewbacca is back, there's R2-D2, but the big one is obviously Grogu is somehow going to meet up with Rey. Do you want to project your maternal instincts onto an animatronic doll? Well, have I got the movie for you. But Rey will be the character who leads it all. She's the one they want to pin this on and try and revive Star Wars. Oh, this is going to be glorious. And if it doesn't work, well, they'll go back and scrap it, but she'll still be there. And there is one group of people out there who got incredibly excited about the announcement and then incredibly angry. Just when you think it's safe to go outside, you find out they're still lurking in the cardboard box around the corner. This is Star Wars, the return of the Reylos. Star Wars Reylo fans demand Adam Driver return with Ridley. The character famously perished at the end of 2019's Rise of the Skywalker. But you know, this is Disney Star Wars, he could potentially return anyway. Or perhaps we could go around and make his death completely meaningless. That sounds like something Star Wars would do. We could even do it, I don't know, maybe through time travel, which has already saved one character from certain death. Screen Rant thinks the trailer secretly brings back Star Wars time travel, with the world between worlds from Star Wars Rebels. And they make an interesting point when they say the show might use it to explain why Ahsoka was absent during the events of the original Star Wars trilogy. A critical figure in the rebellion's inception, Ahsoka is nowhere near the Galactic Civil War itself. I mean, perhaps Ahsoka just returned to this world and inadvertently time-travelled into the future after the Empire had already been defeated. This would explain where she was and why she didn't train Luke. Yeah, maybe we could just use time travel to arbitrarily fill in any plot hole in the entire history of the universe. That's always a good plan used by people with incredible writing talent. Uh-oh, these films came out first? Yeah, but if we just skip over them with our new lore, that'll be fine. And whenever you watch the Ahsoka trailer, I think you should have something in mind. The intended reaction that you're supposed to be having when you're watching such a masterpiece in action. Because Dave Filoni himself thinks that the Ahsoka series is a religious experience. Because Dave Filoni saw one of the episodes already edited together. He walked up to him, glossy-eyed, and said to me that that was a religious experience. To you, it's just Star Wars, but to him, it's a new religion. Maybe that's why there's such a hype about this series. Even talk of it making Dave Filoni a force unlike any other in the Star Wars galaxy. He has to weave live action and animation characters to bring them together into one religious experience of a TV show. Saying his aim is to make the audience have a relationship with these characters. You have to have a balance of pleasing existing fans, which, if you exclude the Reylos, is about 3 of them, while also inviting a new audience so that anybody watches your show at all. Favreau acknowledged that it wasn't so much a long-term plan as much as a long-term hope that this was successful, which really makes it sound like he's full of confidence with the idea, doesn't it? Yeah, you know, I haven't made any plans about it being successful, because let's face it, we all know it won't be, but I do hope that I might be surprised. And I don't think any statement has filled me with more confidence than Filoni than what he said when asked what he thought about the show he was actually creating. Filoni said, "It's weird. I mean, it's great. I mean, I don't know what to think about it." That is clearly a statement from a literary genius. So what do you think about moving these characters over from animation to live action? Does that impress you? I don't know what to think, mate. I'm just kind of here like in it. This truly is the best and brightest of Hollywood at work. And the article even talks about Ahsoka's previous live action appearances, about the perils of fandom, that fans let it be known that the character's unique look, including headdress, didn't line up with the animated look, to which Dawson replied, "We heard it," saying that it involved foam costuming that was heavier and challenging to work with, but now they can give her lighter stuff to work with because it's 3D printed. Honestly, I don't think any of the complaints about how you looked had to do with, "It just looks like it's heavy, love." That really sounds like you heard other people's complaints and went, "Yeah, I know you have a problem, but you should have seen me. I was exhausted after it because it was just so heavy." I don't really know how you turn other people's complaints about how you look into your own problems, but apparently that's what was done here. You've given a reply about how they've solved your problems as an actress individually, but apart from "we heard it," haven't said you've addressed the fans' complaints about it at all. And I have to be honest, from a viewer perspective, I don't care how difficult it is for you to film a scene. I only care if the show is good. I would much rather you had something that looked correct and was heavier than something that looked terrible but was really light and easy for you to film. But maybe that's just me. But you know, when it comes to Disney Star Wars, it is very strange because their merchandise of the original series, that's still selling. People really like Luke. Rey, though, they don't. And yet they're so desperate to move on into a new era, to leave the original stuff behind and just get their characters involved. We're trying to pitch Rey as this new thing, to move her into the future. This is going to be a new merchandising push with Rey and Grogu. I'm not sure Grogu is the answer to Star Wars problems. If your entire merchandising strategy is simply solved by people having babies of their own, then that's probably not a comprehensive entertainment strategy you've got going for you. And yet, despite the fact that you want to leave the past behind, you just can't get past it, can you? Maybe that's why you're having to release Star Wars Return of the Jedi back in theaters. Yes, you're actually releasing an original movie to the theaters rather than one of your own. Is that really the greatest sign for an IP? It wouldn't be a problem if you weren't obviously trying to destroy that past on your own. If you didn't obviously want to leave it behind.
I don't know as we'll spend a lot of time in flashbacks or Force Ghosts. The spirit of what he represents to her is going to be significant.
And yet that's the only thing which is profitable for you. But when you've got all these people leaving projects before they're completed, you're pumping out show after show to the point where none of them are successful, so you have to go back to the original character which nobody wanted in the first place. It really is a sign to me that you simply don't have the creativity or the talent in-house to do what you're trying to do. And yet rather than pivot, change direction, completely change your top executives to get somebody else with different ideas, what do? You go back to the bottom of the barrel and go, maybe we should just start again and repeat all of our mistakes from stage one. It's a terrible business plan. It's a terrible idea. But then again, did anyone really expect anything different from Kathleen Kennedy? And Hollywood, where it seems the best way to get promoted is to tick the right box and fail upwards over time. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.